All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 3 of Bach Babies. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Jasmine Luethy, one of my dearest and closest friends. Jasmine and I met back in high school. Freshman year, we were both in show choir together. She was a performer, and I was on crew. And even then, I feel like I could feel her radiant, positive energy. That's one thing that I'm sure will come through when she's talking today. She is just a beam of light, and she truly, just gives her energy and positivity into every project and to every room she walks into. And she has fabulous hair. Not that that is important, but but we were in lots of groups together in high school, lots of amazing productions. Jasmine was known for her insane work ethic and her incredible ability to lead people and to follow people in a respectful way. So I have had the honor of working with her and being a leader with her and working under her. It's been truly an honor to work with her as a musician, as a performer. So I'm really, really excited to talk to her today. I am so lucky that she decided to go to the same university that I go to. So she's at Loyola. And I'm also excited to talk to her today because she, unlike our other guests so far, is not majoring in music, but is still finding ways to keep music in her life and, have it add that same positivity, hopefully, that it gave to her life in high school. So my beautiful, wonderful soprano friend, Jasmine, how are you?
I'm good. I'm hyped up now. That was like the best introduction I could have ever asked for.
Now you just came from a day of filming and stuff, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit
Yes.
about that?
Of course, I'd love to. So yes, this morning I was I don't know, on set with air quotes for about 4.5 hours this morning, shooting a web series for a club here on campus. So it's been so incredible getting to work with these people and get to see kind of the film side of the performance industry, which I've never seen before. So yeah, I was up at 6 a.m. to be on set at 9. We shot 4 scenes. Then I was in 2 outfits, 2 makeup looks. It's been really fun.
That's awesome. What is that like as far as like costumes and like where is your home for that on campus?
Well, costuming for this has really been the performer brings in
Okay.
whatever they're gonna wear.
Yeah.
So luckily for me, my character, she dresses very professionally, which as you know, is something that I do. So that was not a problem for me.
Right. You're like heels. What
Yeah.
color?
But then there's also, costume sharing between people. If people are like, I'm
Sure.
supposed to have a blazer for the scene. I don't have one. Does anyone have one? And then someone will bring
That's
it.
so
And
nice. And what, as far as like masks and stuff, when you're filming, doing all that stuff, like how have they adapted with this filming and all this stuff to kind of a COVID era?
so it's definitely interesting that you asked that because the guidelines and things have been shifting the whole time this whole
Yeah.
semester we've been doing stuff. So definitely the whole time the crew is wearing masks.
Okay.
And then depending on the scene in the episode, when it comes out, you'll see sometimes the performers are wearing masks, sometimes they're not. Everyone's been getting tested for COVID. And it's a very fairly small
Right,
cast.
totally.
So there's no more than like, I don't even know if there's 10 people in the cast, but it's been interesting that, before shooting each week, you gotta, okay, what's the rules for this week? What are we doing?
Oh my gosh. How do you like that kind of fast-paced, like, I know at least in high school where it was like kind of this long-term project, or like, I know something that I always think about when I think about you, especially in productions, is like she seriously was known for like, they'd give her the script and it'd be like week 1 and she was basically off book. Like that was what you were kind of known for in high school. It was so impressive. So how do you adapt that to something where it's like the week of that you're given all this stuff?
It's definitely been an asset for me to have that skill of being
Sure.
able to memorize quickly because yeah, it's sometimes some of the scenes I shot yesterday, I had got the script for the first time on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
And so just kind of rolling with the punches, shooting out of order in a play, you
Hmm.
pretty much, I mean, you can rehearse out of order, but every time you do the same thing in the same order chronologically. So it's definitely been, adapting to it, to getting scripts quickly and notes about, okay, actually we want this for costumes and we need this kind of prop and
Yeah.
this makeup. You have to be able to adapt really quickly, but coming in with the memorization skills, and I think also some of the work ethic skills that were fostered in us in high school was able to really help me there.
It's so huge. And it's fun to talk to someone who went to my high school because I think, at least from who I've talked to, some people weren't involved. Like Ellie wasn't involved in choir in high school. She did it through like a separate, like a thing. But for me, at least in our high school, our choir director like is the reason that I'm still doing this stuff. Um,
Right.
and like where I met you and all of that stuff. So it was like crucial to like my journey personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there were some things that we learned about like being on time and what does that mean. And it's so funny because you can tell we still work in some ways that we did in high school, where it's like we both show up like sometimes absurdly early to things. That's what
Yes.
we were taught. But I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And you talk about work ethic, and I mean, I think it's interesting. Everyone who I've been super excited to talk to or even work with in general, with music especially, is someone who I can pinpoint the fact that their work ethic is amazing. Like that seems to
Mm-hmm.
definitely be among who I would call like successful in their own right. Like they have a really good work ethic. And I think, even though, it is not a fault. I don't want to present the fact that you're not a music major as a fault. It's just an interesting, a new perspective. Um, Jasmine is a part of the Jazzowitz, which is our vocal jazz group here at Loyola. And a lot of people in that group are minoring or majoring in music. And still, Jasmine comes in and she is like leading her section and she knows her pitches. Like it's awesome. She works like a musician, which is really impressive for someone who doesn't necessarily have to be in a practice room all the time and stuff like that. So I'd love to hear about how you kind of approach music when your day is not filled with it really at all.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for the compliment of working
No
like a musician.
problem.
I
I
think
mean, those
that's,
things stick out when you're in an
yeah.
ensemble and stuff, and it's just really cool that it's something definitely people notice, and it's especially impressive to me when it's like that's not your life really at all until it has to be, but still you show up as if you're in a practice room a million times a day.
So yeah, it definitely, I mean, it doesn't hurt that music is something that I love doing. And so I love to go to rehearsal and I want to sound good. I want to show up. I want the group to sound good. And part of the group sounding good is me knowing my stuff and showing up ready to rehearse and pull my weight for the group. There's definitely a lot of time I spend here at my little keyboard playing through parts and working through, and man, I didn't get this part that time. I want to be better next time. Um, and yeah, I'm not a music major. I'm not a music minor, theater minor, but it's still something that I love doing. And that's why I wanted to join the Jazzowitz. I wanted to keep that in my life in a really meaningful way. And in a way that was, I'm not just, I still sing on my own other music, but something that, I was striving towards a goal of a performance or holding myself accountable to other people,
Mhm.
which is really important. And then I committed to the Jazzowitz. And so now that I'm committed, I want to do my part and to help this group be the best that it can be.
Absolutely. No, and we're very, very happy to have you in that group. It's very fun. Um, Now, I realized I just forgot to ask you if you were going to kind of give a bio, a general. We've said what you're not, but what are you?
So yes, a little bit about me. I'm Jasmine. I'm a sophomore here at Loyola with Maddie. I'm a psych major, theater minor, very college introduction there. But So yeah, I'm not into I'm not a music major, music minor, but I still love to do that. That's a big part of my life. And then we've kind of talked a little bit already, but performing is still something that is also a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd like to keep doing stage productions like we did in high school, but I'm also really trying to explore the film and screen industry as well for acting, which is very new and exciting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And still, taking acting classes here, and I've taken some in the city. So performing is something that I really love. It it brings so much joy to my life. It's I don't know how to describe it, but that is it sets my soul on fire. That is, I think, really what I want to do with my life. So
Yeah.
uh pursuing some of those creative opportunities is something that I'm very focused on right now.
And lucky for the world that that is where you're headed, but I know how scary that can be to admit that to yourself.
Oh yeah.
And I've had this conversation before, and it's funny, some of these crazy musicians that it was like, I mean, I feel like you were born knowing that this is what you're going to do. And they're like, well, I was still scared to, you know, like, did so, and I know I've talked to you over the years a lot about this stuff, and we've both kind of like reluctantly been like, I think this is what I love so very
Mm-hmm.
much. And like, you know, so can you talk a little bit about, kind of, I know it's been over like the past year of kind of like
Mm-hmm.
getting into college and not being in choirs every day, not being able to be in stage productions also because of COVID,
Right.
but how you kind of leaned into your passion because it's so much harder than it sounds, especially when it's scary. And also I know from my experience with you, like, she's also a brilliant student, and you could very well do many many things, um, but there's a certain stigma around saying, well, I want to be a performer and I want to go to New York, LA. So if you could just talk a little bit about
Definitely.
that, I'd love to hear what
Of
you have to say.
course. Yeah, it was really scary when I decided that, yeah, I think this is what I want to pursue. Um, and I think, I mean, it was really over when we first got quarantined, um, way back when, if you can remember, that I started to, I mean, I was college decision time. So I was thinking about that and thinking about, man, picking majors and minors and what I want to study. And I I think when I had really decided I wanted to do acting, I'd committed to Loyola at that point. So I was looking at all the courses, at all the stuff, getting ready for school, and having that time that it wasn't always just 14, 20 hours a day, going, um, allowed me to actually stop and reflect, like, what do I actually want to do? um, and to come to the realization that, I want to be doing something that I love.
Yeah.
um oh man, I remember when I first told my parents that, like, I was kind of switching my thinking a little bit. I was like, would you I think I started crying. I was like, would you be mad at me if I said I wanted to do acting? And they were so supportive. No, not at all.
Of
That
course, yeah, yeah,
we'll
yeah.
be so supportive of you. They're so supportive of it. But I was like terrified,
Right.
partly because I
Right.
was scared myself a little bit. And this is what I'd wanted to do for a long time. I've been in shows since kindergarten, been acting and performing and singing my whole life. And for a long time, until I got to high school, I was like, I'm going to be an actress. That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
I'm going to perform. Then I get to high school, and I did very well in high school. I got good grades. I would be capable of doing pretty much any career that I wanted.
Right.
And then you talk to other people, arts, that's not a sustainable career. You can't make a living off of that.
Right.
Nope, you're just gonna end up,
Well, and a girl as smart
back
as
living at
you,
home with
like,
your
why would
parent.
you,
Uh-huh. Exactly. So I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe they're right. I should choose something safer.
Sure.
So, I'd been talked myself eventually around into, what? Let's do medicine. Let's go to med school and be a doctor. And then that's job security for life. But it's not what I'm passionate about.
Right.
And I don't, I could I do it? Yeah. do I really want to? No. And I don't think someone really should do that if that's not something you're passionate about.
Right.
You're not going to be the best you could be. And I also didn't want to live with regrets of I never even gave acting a shot. I never gave, being creative an opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure so many people can relate to that. And I'm so happy for you that your parents are also supportive of that journey.
I'm so
It's so funny
lucky.
how we hype ourselves up so much and they're like, well, yeah, like, and I love the way that you talk about how it's like, but this has always been there. Um,
Hmm.
because again, like that is something I definitely can relate to. Like it's like you watch all the home videos or you see a relative you haven't seen in 15 years and they're like, "Oh, you're the one who was always singing" or whatever and you're like, "Huh,
Uh-huh.
like this isn't new." But I would love to hear about like Bebe Jasmine. Like what were your first experiences with performing in music and, like how did you get into it? Just, from the beginning.
From the very beginning, I mean, my parents put me in acting and voice lessons. So I was doing that at the Metropolis in Arlington
Okay.
Heights.
And what age was
Uh,
that?
First grade, I think. I said kindergarten earlier, but I'm fairly certain it was actually first grade.
There.
Um, in the SOPA program. um, Taking classes. And then the first show I was in, I think, was the Little Rascals at Metropolis.
Oh.
I was in the kids chorus. Um, and I have just I was also in ballet or whatever,
Sure.
all these things that enrichment take, but acting and singing were things that really stuck, that I was like, oh, I really like doing this, let's keep doing it. So I was in choirs in middle school, uh, all the way through. I did the operetta in third grade. I did all the middle school shows. I was in band from fourth grade through eighth grade. I played the flute.
I
I
did
don't know if you
not
knew that
know
about
that.
me.
Oh my gosh, I love that like it matches your like like my Miss Soprano singer is playing the flute. Like, yeah,
The
that makes sense.
flute, I know, it's a
That's so
very
cool. I didn't
neat
know that.
instrument.
How was
My
that
flute's
being
name
a
was
band
Bubbles.
kid? Like, how did that affect you and like, did it stay in your mind at all when you were in choir? Like, I used to be a band kid. Like that perspective.
Well, one practical thing is I think I probably actually learned how to read sheet music from band rather than from choir, because that really wasn't something we focused on in middle school choir. The
Right.
director would just play the notes and you would sing along and learn it that way. So learning sheet music was a big
Helpful, yeah.
help there. But then, I mean, I liked playing in band most of the time. Um, it was usually very pretty music that we were playing. Um, we had a fairly big ensemble for a parochial middle school.
Mhm.
um, so I mean, I enjoyed it,
Mhm.
but I would say instrumental music was not something that I was quite as passionate about. I much
Right.
preferred singing and performing.
Right.
So that was, my mom wanted me to do marching band in high school. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I joined show choir instead.
Yeah, so I mean, let's go to that. So before you started high school, you auditioned to be in the show choir to the high school that we went to, which
Yes.
was a pretty um, intense but pretty successful program as well. And you
Mm-hmm.
made it in, which is a really big deal. So talk me through that. Like you audition, you get in, like what's going through your mind? What changes when you make this really awesome group going into high school?
Well, I'll say I probably would have been even more nervous than I was if I'd actually known very much about the Expressions or Buffalo Grove High School, because I didn't go to the public middle schools that fed
Yeah.
into that program consistently. So it wasn't something that I'd grown up like hearing people talking about or
Yeah.
going to see the shows of. And I just moved to the Buffalo Grove High School District too in like the end of seventh grade.
Right, right.
So I was very new to it. But still, when I went to, we had a couple days of workshops before the audition to learn choreography, and then to sing the national anthem a couple times because that was what we were supposed to sing.
Right.
And I could tell from meeting our choir director and meeting some of the kids who were in it that this was a good group. This was an intense group.
Yep.
Um, and that definitely made me want to be a part of it. I think something we share is a desire for excellence. So I was like, this is a good, really good
Yeah.
program. I'd really like to be in it.
Right.
Um, so I was definitely, I mean, I was nervous, but I always get nervous for auditions, but I'd been practicing a lot. So I was feeling fairly prepared. We'd
Right.
also had, I think we had like 2 extra days because of a power outage at the school. So I had some extra time to prepare.
Oh my
So
God.
I'll credit that a little bit.
It's so funny. I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this, but I went to the first day of auditions or like the first day of the
Really?
clinics, and then I was like, this isn't for me. And then
Right,
regretted
I
it.
didn't know that.
And joined crew later because I was like, oh, I miss my people. Because then I was like dead set on being like a dancer. So I
Okay.
didn't have the privilege of figuring out what I really wanted to do for a little while there. But yes, I do believe getting like we had voicemails and stuff because there was some sort of power outage, but
Yep.
still you audition and you get in. So
Yeah.
like
That was very exciting.
I mean, did you have any
It was,
backup plans if you didn't make that group, or was it kind of it's
I
so
think at
early?
elective night, I'd signed up to be in like whatever beginner choir.
Okay.
So I was going to just be in choir, but then instead I got switched into the expressions
Yeah.
like class
But you
period.
knew you were going to be singing. That was
I
something
knew
that
I was
you
going to be singing.
okay.
That was definitely something that I wanted to do. I knew I was going to be singing. I knew I was going to want to do the shows. I didn't know any of the directors, but I was like, that was something I wanted to do.
Right.
Found out I got in expressions. That's the show choir. Um, I was actually at rehearsal for our middle school play. We were doing Peter Pan. Yeah.
What were you in that?
Huh?
What were you in that show?
Okay, this is gonna get me canceled, but we were
Oh,
in all white school. I was Tiger Lily.
oh my god. Oh my goodness. Oh, I mean, it's not your choice. I think that's also
No.
something that I've heard people deal with. I think there's a difference between making a choice of like, you know, like I'm never gonna sing Burn on a stage. I mean,
Right.
I can't be, and that's okay. Like that's totally fine. But, as a young kid being chosen to play a Puerto Rican, that was not my choice.
Right.
So this is a safe space, and I'm sure you did a great job. But it's good that you can at least look at that and be like,
Yep. Yep. That
um,
was
so
mm.
you get that information while you're at rehearsal. Um, and I'm sure, I mean, I can't imagine how excited you were. That's so cool. And it's like this built-in group of people that you're going to know going into your freshman year.
That was one of the best things for me, honestly, because coming from a small parochial school, there were, I think, 2 or 3 boys from my school who went to BG. No one, I never saw them. They didn't
Right.
do like artsy stuff. So I knew no one coming into the school. I was terrified
Right.
because this was a much bigger school than I'd ever been to.
Right.
I didn't know anyone coming in. So being able to have that community, and we went on a retreat before the school year even started. So to get to know some people and come in, being able to say hi to a couple of people in the hallways, that was actually really major
And
for
have a
me
home
going
base in
into
the choir room too. I think that's
yes.
huge.
So I mean, continuing, it became my home full time, and it was a huge part. But just freshman year, it was incredible to be able to have that built-in community right away.
Yeah. I it was always really impressive to me because it's so fun watching Jasmine perform in general. But she was seriously just a great musician and a fun, engaging performer to work with on and off stage, which I think is huge, especially as a freshman getting into this really intense group. Your ego could have been through the roof, but instead you were still super humble and nice to work with. Um, Now, for anyone who doesn't know kind of the story of the show choir back at our high school, it ended after our freshman year. So, the thing that kind of, not to put words in your mouth, but kind of like created this environment for your freshman year, it was a huge deal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was gone. This thing that took over your life and was kind of like an identity was now going away. So can you
Mhm.
tell me how you decided you were going to go forward after this huge activity you were involved in no longer exists? What's going through your mind? What do you decide to lean into?
Well, obviously, at first I was just crushed because I loved doing it. I loved the activity itself, and I was so grateful for the community it had given me.
Right.
That there was a really deep loss at first, but you know, the community was still there. I have such deep respect for our choir director. I love her so much, and she had these great ideas for moving forward with the choir program, and there were still a bunch of people that I knew that were planning to stick it out and go through with the changes. So, the community wasn't going away, and I wanted to be there to support that. And then I still loved music. I still loved singing. So I still definitely wanted to be in that room, creating those moments with those people and that music.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, I don't know that I ever considered leaving the program.
Sure.
um, there was just a transition period going from this thing that I had invested so much in and had given so much to me.
Right.
And I had to take some time to mourn that and then say, all right, well, what's next?
Yeah.
And um, how can I make that the best it can be for myself, the best experience? And how can I use that to create this opportunity and this community for the new people who are coming in, who aren't going to have necessarily the same experience or the same group opportunity that I had.
Yeah. So Jasmine was in this group of like kind of the founding of the new kind of revamp of our choir program. And you were kind of put in a leadership position starting as a sophomore, which is kind of crazy because you were kind of associated with these big dogs, and you were also a big dog, but you were on the younger side.
Yeah.
So, she's in chamber choir, she's in, the top a cappella group at the time and everything. Um, and I thought it was really cool because then talking to you once we got to know each other better, you were still, again, super humble and super down to create this really cool environment when we were upperclassmen to,
Mm-hmm.
foster in these young singers and help breed that need for excellence in a way that we could at least. But um, senior year, because you were one of the few people who really stuck around and stayed involved in as many ways as you could, you became a leader in a lot of different groups of music. So I'd love to hear how that experience was going from, you know, a player to a coach in a way, when the weight is more on your shoulders. I mean, you were the music director for chamber choir, for one of our top a cappella groups, and just overall like an ambassador, I guess, to that program. So if you could talk a little bit about being kind of a leader in those musical settings.
Definitely. So those positions were definitely something I had wanted and had sought after.
Yeah.
Um, you know, putting my name out there for elections and for also applications for, because it was, some were the chamber choir is elected, and then the a cappella group, I think our choir director read through applications and picked people. So it was definitely, they were opportunities I wanted. I wanted to be able to continue fostering this excellence in our groups that had been something that I was really proud of in the past. And I'd always looked up to the upperclassmen as people who were very talented musicians,
Yes.
and really pulled their weight in the groups and brought a lot. So I wanted to be able to bring that myself and make sure that it could continue on after I left, because high school, it's transitory. You're there for 4 years. You're not
Right.
necessarily continuing to stick around and just build things with the same people.
Right. Nor
So
should
that
you
was
in
very
that
important.
world of the arts, but no, yeah, like I totally get you.
Yeah. So that was big for me, that I wanted to be able to keep creating the high standards.
Right.
We've heard that a lot from me today. I feel very
I
like,
mean, that's one of the reasons I'm excited to talk to you, because, I think demanding excellence from yourself is something that fewer people know how to do than you would think. And being in an environment where excellence is a value is something that I think changed my life forever. And I think I can at least see through some of your habits and your work ethic, it motivated you and still motivates you. Um,
Definitely.
I mean, and it was really awesome to see you take these leadership positions, and but it definitely was hard when you're experimenting now with the power dynamic of
Oh
working
yeah.
with friends, but now you're in charge. Like, working with that is a really hard line. Like, how do you navigate that? And I know that's still, you know tends to be a problem for people still in high school that'll still talk to me. Like, it's a really hard thing to figure out.
Hmm.
Um, and now, especially, you're in Jesuits, and that's a student-led group completely, not just on
Yeah.
rehearsal days when our choir director can't be there.
Right.
So I think it's interesting that you had that experience and now you're in a group that's completely student-led. But I don't know if you could talk at all about kind of that experience of, like, working with friends, but also, like, tenor section, please quiet down type of stuff. It's really hard, but it's like,
Always the tenors.
oh, it's peace and love to the tenor thing.
But I mean, it definitely was not always easy. Um, Especially when I first stepped into those roles. Part of it was, I mean, I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome. um, and so feeling like I wanted these opportunities, I felt I could do it, and then I was selected for them, and I was like, am I really the right person for
Sure.
this? Can I really do what I want to do with this? Can I hold myself to these standards? Can I actually help other people reach their full potential? This other person wanted this job and they can do this thing better than I can, so maybe they should have actually had the job. And of course that was something huge going through my mind, especially at the beginning. But part of what helped me was having some really great friends such as yourself to really anchor me and boost me up in some of those moments and tell me I was doing a really good job.
Hmm.
um so that was very helpful. And then, yeah, becoming I a student leader, directing other students, directing your peers.
Yeah.
um because it's not even necessarily the age thing, but that you're all you go to the same classes,
Hmm.
you're in the same group, and so you really feel like equals, that no one's hired you, no
Right.
one's paying your salary, that there's no natural hierarchy there.
Hmm.
But I mean, maybe you can speak to this better than I can, but I'd like to think that through my actions and my standards through the 4 years, I'd earned some respect
Hmm.
from my peers. So I do think that even more than I did at first, anyway, other people did believe that I could do
Yeah.
that job and that I belonged in that job. So I think that was helpful for me. And once I started to really, wow, yes, these people do think I can do this. Um, to say, okay, well, if they trust me enough to do this, then I'm going to take some of that respect and I'm going to give it back, as okay, I'm going to be a leader. I'm not just going to let you do whatever you want,
Right.
because I respect you more than that, and I want you to be able to be great. So okay, yes, sometimes when I was leading a rehearsal, I would have to get a little, can you please pay attention now?
Yeah.
Or we're going to be doing this now. um, but I guess I never thought of it as being mean to anyone, because that was never any intention behind it. There was absolutely no malice.
Right.
And I think that also that, genuine, I was not trying to say I was better than anyone,
For sure.
um, was something that could just be there in that environment, and spoke through my actions. So I think mutual respect has a lot to do with it. You have to trust the people you're working with. which is not always necessarily easy to come by.
Right.
Um, but yeah, having that environment of mutual respect, and that after rehearsal, okay, yeah, now let's go out and do something fun.
Right,
And
right, yeah.
yes, I still really like you. I think you're a great person. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's mess around and sing some stuff and just
Right.
have fun. But in rehearsal, setting that boundary as well
Oh, that's
between
huge.
working time and time to just be friends, I think is also really important.
I think that's really hard for a lot of people to establish. I think it was hard for myself to establish when in power. Like it just it's hard when you're working with your peers like that. And I think it was really interesting when you were saying like, you know, getting insecure about, well, they can, do this or they can do whatever. I mean, I even remember that for women's choir, I was president, and I remember being like, well, I can't play piano as well as like this person, and it's like, well,
Uh-huh.
they
That
should,
was something I had.
right? So they should, so I shouldn't have this anymore. And it's like
Mhm.
you think about that, and it's like, well, you can compare yourself to every like other people all day, but I don't
100%.
understand how that's gonna help. Which of course I'm not like that is something I still struggle with, that
Mhm.
imposter syndrome and never feeling good enough for like I even being a music major sometimes I'm like I feel like I don't belong here. Like all these people, like it's like in their veins. But that's also part of why it's such an interesting industry to be involved in because it's like
Mhm.
never going to be bored with what's going on. But I think that's such a hard thing to go through, especially as a high schooler, um,
Mhm.
to be like, well, but she can sing a C6 and I can't, so I should not be in charge of this group or
Right, right.
whatever. Like,
These things that we pull out as being so important and
right,
holding so much worth and rank value, and they're really not. But I mean, I as well will still find these things, and then you look back a couple of years and you're like, that was something that made me think that they were so much better in everything that I was because they could do this better.
right.
Is interesting. um
And I don't know
and I
one
think,
person who's good at like all elements of like, and that's one thing that I
right.
think is so fun about all of this stuff, um, is like how many different branches of music that you can get into and be good at. And I think realizing that there is something you're really good at in music, people wanted you to be in that position. Um, and that's why they voted for you, you know? And I think something that at least was successful for me, and I think that you did this too. And of course, we're playing very small scale right now, just little groups in high school,
Mhm.
whatever. Um, but to what I was saying before, I can't play piano. I'm a lot better than I was then, but I still think it's a waste of time for me to try to play, especially with like big choral arrangements and whatever. So when I
Mhm.
was leading a rehearsal, I would call on the person who could play and say,
Yep.
can you help play this for us? Instead of trying to prove to everyone that I could play because I really couldn't. But I figured everyone would just lose respect for me. But in
Yes.
reality, I was like, well, I'm not good at that. And in my own time, I'll work on that and improve. But my ego, like, I don't need to prove to people that I can play piano in order to prove to
Mhm.
them that I should be in this leadership position. Which I think is also really hard for people to admit sometimes that it's like
Yes.
there's a weakness or and so I
Right.
think you were always good at that too, to be like, hey, can you listen to me doing this? Or do you want to, whatever? Or like, can you play for me? And playing into your strengths, which I
Yes.
think, you've carried into college as well, if I'm correct with that.
Yeah,
But,
I think that's super important to, and asking for help if you're not good at something, like playing the piano. Can you come and play this for us,
hmm
please? And then that person also feels then validated and recognized and can use their strength.
right,
So
right,
I think, asking for help, we see it as ourselves being weak somehow, but it's really not. It's helping, the whole group be better. It's helping that person shine,
right,
and feel validated and strong. So yes, but it definitely takes conscious effort to continue to think like that.
for sure. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, how
Hmm.
has music played a role for you outside of performance? Um, like, how do you seek out music that, emphasizes something in your life or whatever? Like, for example, I like to talk about music in terms of like my mental health. Like, I sought it out as kind of this comfort, which I also think is funny because it would often be me running away from the stress of music in one corner of my life into, seeking kind of that comfort or whatever. But how else, besides kind of music and performing and in these formal music settings, has music been important to you?
Definitely as a de-stressor. I mean, still, if I'm reading a textbook, let's get to the end of this section, then we'll put on a song and we'll dance around for 3 minutes to
Yeah.
just kind of get up and get moving and feel some of that happiness. So, oh yes, this is a great song. um, and I also really like to listen to music that means something to me. It doesn't have to mean a whole lot, but have some kind of connection. I don't. I'm not. I don't have Spotify Wrapped because I don't really listen to music on Spotify. I don't do the radio a super ton because I'm not driving around in the car really anymore. So I've got the CDs that I've downloaded on my phone and some music that I've gotten off iTunes if I had a gift card. And, it'll be CDs like, okay, I've got the Beatles and Elton John and Queen that my parents like.
Yeah.
And I like the music too, but then it also, makes me think of my parents. I've got so much Taylor Swift because my friend in middle school had given me a couple Taylor Swift CDs,
Oh,
and
that's
I
so
loved
cool.
them. I listened to them all the time. And now did you ask me a question?
Oh no, that's awesome that you had those then. And it's not with her whole re-recording and everything, but you're like, it's already been bought. So
It's already been,
you
oh
don't
yeah.
need to
Oh,
streaming
the
it.
CDs were bought way before any of that happened. Oh,
Amen. No harm.
no.
Peace and love to
But
Taylor Swift.
but I love her music so much. And so I've continued listening to her music and stuff, and it started out just being that was, something that was introduced to me. I liked it. And now I think even a lot of her new music, I'm like, I like some of the real messages in it too. And I'm like, that's a really great song.
Yeah.
I'll probably play one for you later because I think you would really like it too.
Are
Um,
you, if I could
but
interrupt you for just 1 minute while you're
of
on this,
course.
are you a person who connects with like the sounds or like kind of like the chords or the lyrics first? Because I think that's so interesting. Like if you're
I
really
would
like if you think
say
about the songs that mean a lot to you, was it just when you listened to it for the first time, just like how it sounded or the words that they were saying?
for a lot of those, for me, it'll be the lyrics. It'll be the lyrics, and not even necessarily the first time through, but like, man, this is the third time this song has come up this month, and now that I'm like, actually, I can follow the lyrics a bit now.
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually, I really like what this is saying. Um, for something like that, or even just, wow, there was some real cool rhymes in there. I like that.
They found a way to
But
rhyme orange.
uh-huh, things like that. There are definitely moments where I'll be listening to a song, especially a cappella music, that
Mhm.
I'll have to, if they hit a chord or something, I will literally stop and stand still and be like, that was so beautiful. I love that so much.
It's such a cool
Um,
feeling.
so I definitely still listen to the sounds and the music, especially I'd say with a cappella music, which I love. Um, but for a lot of the other music, I would say more lyrics.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. I think I am more compelled towards artists who are like dig deep and say the things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was feeling this. But now that you mention it, in the key of G,
Right?
I really it strikes a chord. Um, um, but yeah, I wish I could keep you here forever to talk about, all these roles that you had in high school, which was so fun to watch you perform and take on these different characters. You poor thing, you normally were playing kind of the ditz or but you did a
Yep,
great
the
job.
characteristic dumb blonde there, but
Yeah. But it was
I've
so
gotten good
fun
at
and
it.
you played into it. Um, and it worked. It was awesome. And to know you off stage as a person was also just such a gift. And The first time that I really, really got to like work with you was when we agreed. We saw West Side Story, um,
Mhm.
and where did we see that? Was that at the Lyric?
It was, it might have been at the Lyric. That was probably what I was gonna say, but
My brain's foggy. I don't
it
know.
might have also been at, I think at the time, maybe it was called the Oriental. I think it's been renamed,
Okay,
but it might have been there as well. I know a lot of big productions get put on there, but it was
right.
somewhere downtown
Because I
Chicago.
don't think it was Broadway in Chicago. I think it was, who knows? Um, but we saw this show, and that show has always been one of my favorite shows of all time.
Mhm.
My my mom let me watch West Side Story when I was like 10, um, because they started playing it in my music class when I was in elementary school, and we were like halfway through it, and then they stopped because they were like it's too inappropriate and she was getting too many complaints
Okay.
from parents, and my mom was like about to complain that they stopped playing like the movie, um, with Rita Moreno, who's like one of my heroes. So I absolutely love this show and the music. And it was fun because I remember talking to you after seeing this show, and we both were like, had stars in our eyes this moment. And we were like, would you want to sing like A Boy Like That with me? Um, and it was like, we both were like, wait a second, like that could be really cool. And
Mhm.
it was awesome because we worked on it for so long. It wasn't this
Yeah,
last minute thing that was thrown together. It was really purposeful. And when we eventually performed it on stage, it was like one of my highlights of high school because it was like
me too.
so beautiful. And something that was really special was like people coming up to me after being like, I can tell that you guys are so close and that you were having so much fun doing that. Even though in the song we were like fighting and beefing with each other. But that was such a special moment to me in high school, and one way that like, not only your talent but your work ethic when it comes to music was like such a positive impact on that experience because we both went in like head on.
Mhm.
Um, and I enjoyed that experience very much. I can't speak for
Me
both of
too.
us, but it was a beautiful moment that I'll never forget.
You expressed everything that I'm feeling.
And we were supposed to be in Once Upon a Mattress our
Yeah.
senior year. We're the class of 2020, so we were gypped at that. So I didn't get to see that last performance of yours. But we do have a concert coming up for jazz, which I'll be able to sing with you again, which I am so, so very excited
So
for.
excited.
And it's been really an honor to watch you in this group become, you know, kind of very much a leader, maybe without a title. I'm very sorry. But just kind of this unspoken leader, and a soloist in one of our songs. Like, you bring that same energy and that same positivity into the music and the community, which I think is such a gift to everyone who's involved. And one of the many, many reasons why I love and appreciate you. Um, I want to kind of close this off first by asking how you personally would define success, especially for yourself. So, right now, you're a sophomore, you're an undergrad, there's a lot going on. But at this moment
A
in
lot.
time, how would you define success for yourself?
Short
Really quick.
term. All right, I'm gonna give you two answers here.
Fair.
Very short term, success is going to be me staying up at least till 2 to get some work done and then getting up to go to class tomorrow.
Hmm.
Just
I love that like
pushing through,
success
getting
in the
that
next
done.
24 hours. Like, I love that.
That is in the next 24 hours, completing a couple, well, not a couple, my goals for the evening of some work I need to get done,
Right.
and then getting up tomorrow to start it all again. And I'm not a morning person. I know you are. Getting out of bed is a struggle. So that is success. Long term, success for me is contentness.
Mm,
So success does not mean a six-figure job
sure.
or the perfect family or being, I don't know if you're talking about musically performing wise, being a star, being famous.
Sure, sure,
That
sure.
is not what success is to me. Success to me is knowing that you're doing your best work every day, feeling proud of the work that you're doing, feeling fulfilled by the work that you're doing. I definitely, I want to be fulfilled by the work that I'm doing. I want to love what I'm doing, not necessarily every second of every day,
Sure.
but I want to say I'm pursuing what I want to be pursuing.
Mhm.
That this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm trying, and I'm putting my best effort into everything every day. Um, are there things I'd like? Would I like to have a successful career? Yeah, I'd like to. Would I like to have a family? Yeah, I'd like to.
Mhm.
But can I be successful without those things? Yes.
Hmm. I like that. I think the word that I would choose is fulfillment. So I think we run it
Mm-hmm.
like that stream of consciousness is very similar to how I would go about to define success, which is so interesting the different ways that people define that for themselves. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the reason I love asking this question is we had someone speak in my music business class and I asked a question about like basically, you know, like the fourth grader question of like, what's the secret to becoming successful? And he was like, what is success? And I was like, huh, like, wait a second, I can't even make goals for myself if I don't even know what I'm working toward. Like, what does success
Right.
look like for me? So, you know, I think I love asking that question. I love that answer as well of like, well, especially that it's not going to be perfect and that it's,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
It's
that there's
it's
nothing.
always evolving, always changing.
Right. And again, that's why I ask at this millisecond and your exact latitude and longitude, like what is it right now? Because who knows where it's gonna go. But that's also another reason why I want to document it here, at this kind of, you know, state because there's so much ahead of you. There's so much ahead of
Yes.
you, and that's why I'm so
Yes.
excited for you. Um, is because this is like the beginning of the Wikipedia page, you know? Like it's the baby stages. There's so much to look forward to, and yet you've done so much already, which is so, so impressive. So thank you for letting me have that conversation with you. And
Of
before I
course,
let you
one day I'm gonna
go,
get to say Maddie Morrison. She interviewed me. I was on her
oh
podcast.
my gosh, you're too much. If there's, you know, an artist or two or an album that you'd recommend people, you know, if they're gonna leave and they want to listen to something that, you know, is important to you, or, you know, is it like just musically is something that you kind of identify with in some way, what would that be? What, you know, album, artist, whatever. Show.
All right, we're gonna go with two because
Okay.
I can't pick just one, but I'll keep it short.
Nope, that's Janelle gave me like eight.
So the first one, I think you'd probably predict. I'm actually going to recommend Taylor Swift. I know it can be controversial. Um, uh, I love her. I mean I would recommend listening to her music, especially some of the new music.
Mhm.
Um, there's a documentary about her on Netflix, Miss Americana, that I actually think is really fantastic. And gave me this past year. I was like, I always liked her music, but I actually think I really admire her as a person as well.
Mm.
So I would say I recommend Taylor Swift.
I think that
And
changes,
then,
you know, when you are able to listen to an artist, but also respect them as like the human being that they are. I think
mhm,
that like emphasize, like I think that at least makes my experience with my music listening more of a positive experience. So I think that's really
oh,
interesting. And
definitely.
I'll link like a trailer, you know, to that. You said it's on Netflix?
Yeah, it is.
That's awesome. Okay, number two, I'm ready.
Number two, Pentatonix.
Ooh, good one.
They are incredible. And I know that, it's not necessarily always the same five, and every album or every song, but
Controversial yet again, Jasmine.
that's just me. That's just me. Always pushing the envelope over here. But oh, but especially if you're into acapella music, but even if you're not, they have some quality music. That's the group that so often I will just stop once or twice a song to just be like, that chord was
Mm,
so beautiful.
like soak it
That
in.
just
Yeah.
some of the things they do musically
Yeah.
are just incredible.
Mm. Yeah, and even if you're a fan of Christmas music in general, like
Oh,
their Christmas album is
100%. Their
insane.
Christmas music is phenomenal.
So
Phenomenal.
good. Oh yeah, I couldn't. Those are, and I can't wait to link those and everything, and I'll have them all and stuff.
Yay.
Jasmine, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you
I am
for
lucky to
having
get to
me.
know you in and outside of an interview where I get to spend time with you. And, we're actually going to sing at a mass tonight together. So, life of a musician, we're never, it's never ending. Um, but I'm sure people will find this super, super interesting. Your story is super cool. And I forever will find your work ethic and the way that you approach life and things that you're passionate about with such great respect, and they will continue to inspire me. So thank you for sharing that and you with the viewers.
Well, that means a lot to me, Maddie. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll see you guys on the next episode.